So a couple weeks ago, the Jehovah's Witness leadership deleted a video from their website, the January 2015 episode of JW Broadcasting. The whole broadcast is about higher education, Jehovah's Witnesses' stance on college. I talked about the first half of this with former governing body member Anthony Morris a couple videos ago, but you don't really need to have seen that to watch this one, so don't click away, please. I need your help. Because the second half is way crazier and self-contained. An interview with Jehovah's Witnesses' top lawyer, Philip Brumley.
And time and again, David, we've seen Jehovah's hand in our work. And when something favorable happens, rather than in any way thinking, well, that was because I did such a good job, the genuine reality of it is that Jehovah did a good job.
So here's part two. Here's what's going on with Watchtower's lawyer, that they don't want any video evidence of on their website anymore for some reason. But another possibility as to why this talk has been removed is the fact that it is probably the only video that Philip Brumley appears in, and Philip Brumley is one of Watchtower's actual lawyers, as you can see.
Speaking of lawyers, we have an interesting perspective from Brother Philip Brumley of the legal department. Let's go to our Patterson studio and listen to an interview of him conducted by Brother David Schaefer, a helper to the teaching committee.
Oh God, I didn't realize that they cut to David Schaefer doing it. Well, I have a whole video nitpicking this guy's entire vibe, so links in the description for that.
Thank you very much, Brother Morris. And we're delighted to have with us Brother Philip Brumley, overseer of the legal department. He's been a full-time servant for the past 41 years, and for the last 28 years has been overseer of the legal department. Brother Brumley, thank you very much for taking the time to be with us today. I know you have a very busy schedule.
My pleasure.
Okay, so he's been the head of the legal department for 28 years.
And for the last 28 years has been overseer of the legal department.
That was in 2015. I'm not good at math, but it's been almost 38 years that he's been in charge of the legal department. I don't know if he's the head of it, but he is still very much involved in Watchtower court cases, including one recently where they kind of misled the court and it resulted in some fines. Philip Brumley, in particular, has a penchant for defying the court and racking up fines and sanctions against the group. Needless expenditures because of his own grandstanding. So all these years, all these legal troubles, and it's this same guy with an underbite situation that we don't need to talk about because he can't help it, but he could leave the organization because surely he knows that there's no Holy Spirit running it. But of course he knows it and he doesn't know it. He's conflicted. He is living in a state of cognitive dissonance. On one hand, he knows that he is openly lying, often to respected officials, a thing that the Bible kind of tells him not to do, actually. For example, in this Montana case, Kikert versus Watchtower, in Philip Brumley's sworn affidavit, he says that Watchtower of Pennsylvania, the corporate entity behind Jehovah's Witnesses, the branch, has no contact with congregations of Jehovah's Witnesses located in Montana. Watchtower of Pennsylvania does not establish or disseminate policy or procedure to congregations of Jehovah's Witnesses in Montana. These are obvious lies that could be debunked by any Jehovah's Witness. Go to basically any midweek meeting of Jehovah's Witnesses and you will hear a letter from the branch disseminating policy and procedures, and at the very least, contacting the congregations of Jehovah's Witnesses. And what is JW Broadcasting exactly?
Think about how unique our unity is. Unlike other religious organizations, we're not divided into sub-denominations. We don't have Northern Jehovah's Witnesses, Orthodox Jehovah's Witnesses, or Reformed Jehovah's Witnesses. We are united in the same mind and in the same line of thought. We all preach the same good news, and we all receive the same weekly spiritual instruction.
This deleted episode of JW Broadcasting is all about Watchtower's policies and procedures for higher education, and Philip Brumley is on camera articulating those things. This goes out to witnesses in over 235 lands, including the land of Montana. So it's hard to imagine how he thought he could get away with that, and yet he has to justify it in his mind. So he's a completely insane person. He's unwell. He should be given a psychological exam and probably have his legal license removed, is what I'm saying as a joke in a fun segment I was just doing called Jake's Conspiracy Corner.
Welcome, Internet. I'm so happy to share with you this conspiracy theory.
But for legal reasons, I'm not a lawyer like old Philly Brums here, so I'll specify that I was kidding and I was doing a character.
How did it come about that you came to work in the legal department?
So I was working in the carpenter shop one day, and I got a telephone call from Brother Charles Steele. The governing body asked Brother Steele who could go through law school to become an attorney. The organization needed a few attorneys to help defend the rights of Jehovah's Witnesses. So Brother Steele asked me, or basically gave me the assignment, we want you to become a lawyer.
This really fascinated me as a Jehovah's Witness. This is one of the earlier episodes of JW Broadcasting, and it was genuinely fascinating to get a look behind the curtain. I found this appealing because it felt to me like there was more transparency within the group. I had an inkling that we might be a cult for a while. That was a feeling I was trying to suppress. And at first I was like, okay, good. Well, they're not hiding as much. And then I started to feel like this is propaganda, and once I thought that, I couldn't get it out of my head. I saw this before I had that little realization, but it still is on its face pretty bizarre. Philip Brumley tells this whole story about how he was asked to go to college by Watchtower to represent the organization legally, because they needed lawyers for some reason. Well, I say for some reason, but it's Satan. You know, he's going to go after him legally.
Well, we know that the scene of this world is changing, and we know Satan's coming after us. And he's going to go for us legally.
So the organization made a decision to send you through law school. What effect did that have on you?
Something happened that I was not prepared for. When a person goes to law school, the instructors, law professors, essentially tell the class, you're the hope of humanity. You happen to have been born in the best country in this planet, and you happen to be among the few in this country who have the circumstances to be able to attend law school. You are the future presidents, governors, senators, judges. But not only that, you're also the future social activists, the ones who are going to protect the disenfranchised, the poor, the one who needs their rights protected. If you do well, civilization will do well. If you do poorly, humanity may not survive. Now that may sound like a grandiose statement, but when you hear that repeated over a 4-year period, it can start creeping into your mind.
The utter tone deafness of this segment is astounding. Philip Brumley talks about how full of themselves these college elites are. They really talk themselves up like they're something. Hard to imagine such language. But what he's saying, like, yes, I guess it would be flattering to hear that, but it is also literally true. We need a future with scientists and doctors and mathematicians and teachers and artists. And yes, unfortunately, lawyers. So literally, by getting your degree in that field, you are the next generation of that thing. It's not like they're blowing smoke. It's actually just true. Watchtower embodies this meme that I've seen thrown around about a certain political party, but I'm not going to use it in that context. Every Watchtower accusation is a confession. Watchtower understands rhetorical trickery. On some level, they know that they are playing a game, that they are play acting, and so that's what they assume everyone else is doing, manipulating, flattering, for selfish gain. But no, sometimes people want to learn things because they love that thing, and they want to dedicate their life to it for purely noble reasons. People become teachers because they love teaching and they're good at it and they see it as valuable. Before Philip Brumley went to college on Watchtower's dime, the only education he had was probably from public school teachers. So thank God for them, right, Philip? Because otherwise you probably wouldn't know how to fucking read. But no, becoming a public school teacher wouldn't be acceptable for a Jehovah's Witness. Too much schooling. They'll fill your head with all kinds of crap. All kinds of ridiculous, self-aggrandizing shit.
The greatest honor anyone can have is to be called a servant of the Most High God, Jehovah. In contrast, much of the world's education fosters critical thinking. And note what the Watchtower says about this. We quote, "Do not be fooled by the mistaken notion that a cynical, critical, pessimistic attitude is the same as intelligence. Actually, negative thinking demands little of the intellect."
This is disgraced former governing body member Anthony Morris's son, by the way, Jesse Morris, who is in good standing. He's only got a couple talks, but they're all on the website. So don't worry, the next generation of Morrises giving toxic takes on higher education, it's already here. I just kind of pulled this clip because it's cringe, But this is my first time watching it in the context of thinking, Jesse Morris, as a fake teacher of a fake school, Gilead, has a certain psychological incentive to reaffirm that college is not necessary, higher education is bad, and actually, critical thinking is bad. Of course, the definition that he reads is not from, like, the dictionary or something. It's from a Watchtower publication, so something one of his friends wrote in their magazine. They conflate critical thinking with negative thinking. And we've already established that all Jehovah's Witnesses are beholden to the same beliefs, standards, and practices worldwide. So by definition, mandatorily, this is what Philip Brumley believes. Philip Brumley is a licensed attorney who does not believe in critical thinking. And also, we kind of skipped past it, but he sort of gawked at the idea of standing up for the disenfranchised.
The instructors, law professors, essentially tell the class, you're the hope of humanity. But not only that, you're also the future social activists, the ones who are going to protect the disenfranchised, the poor. Now, that may sound like a grandiose statement, but when you hear that repeated over a 4-year period, it can start creeping into your mind.
Making the world a better place. What a preposterous notion, says licensed attorney Philip Brumley. I don't know if this is the kind of thing that the bar is interested in. I don't really know what a bar is, because again, I'm not a lawyer, and this video is just one big joke. I'm just kidding. This is the character I played.
Now, that may sound like a grandiose statement, but when you hear that repeated over a 4-year period, it can start creeping into your mind.
He's like, now that may sound like a grandiose statement, but if you hear that over and over again, you really start to believe it. Ingrained in Jehovah's Witness beliefs and culture and songs that they sing is making the truth your own. Making Jehovah real to you. There is a weird status quo assumption that you just kind of have to make stuff true that you wouldn't otherwise believe. And so that's what they think everybody else is trying to do to them all the time, nefariously.
Another thing that happened related to that was there's a fierce spirit of competition in law school. And I brought with me the notion of this is a Bethel assignment, so I want to do well. Not just well, but very well.
Uh-oh, here's a mediation questionnaire from the United States Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit, in which Philip Brumley, lying to the court, garnered $154,448.11 worth of sanctions for Watchtower. That's a lot of money. Unless you have a lot of money already, and you can just piss this away. So, like, is Philip Brumley even a good lawyer? Seems like something a good lawyer wouldn't do.
So I want to do well. Not just well, but very well. And David, in the first year, I scored rather poorly. And that shocked me.
That's kind of embarrassing. I don't know why they would put that on camera on purpose.
I thought I have to do better than this.
A deep spirit of competition came into my being,
where I would devote whatever time was required to do well. And in one sense, it worked, because when I graduated cum laude, which means in the top 10% of the class. But both the spirit of competition and the thought that somehow you were special because you had this training had marked my personality.
Okay, so Philip Brumley was in school and a normal thing happened. He did poorly in a class, but he knew that he could do better. So he was motivated to try harder so he could prove to his professors, to his fellow classmates, who of course also are going to be colleagues if they all graduate, that he can do it. So that's just normal, and it's good. Obviously, that's kind of the point of school, is so that you know where you're not doing well, and that can motivate you to do better. But no, that was actually like a satanic toxin, though, and was injected into his bloodstream. This intoxicating spirit of competition zombified Philip Brumley, turned him into somebody who his wife didn't even recognize.
So, how did you come to discern that this kind of thinking was rubbing off on you?
In all candor, David, I didn't discern. It wasn't until after I had gotten out of law school that my wife, Elizabeth, sat me down one day and in so many words told me, "You're not the man I married." And I was taken aback. What do you mean? She pointed out the character flaws that had developed in me, ambition, egotism, selfishness, combativeness, being argumentative. And the more I listened to her, the more I realized she's absolutely right, that I had allowed these defects to creep into my personality. The next thing was what to do about it. And it's not like going into a dark room and flipping on the light. It's not like recognizing that you have character flaws that need work, and next week you've got it cared for. In all candor, David, it was a lengthy process to get these elements out of my system.
What did you do?
I had to get back into a genuine spiritual routine and to reassess the motives behind what I was doing. Rather than being self-motivated, as in, I want to do a good job so that it looks good for me or it reflects well on me. The real point is to serve Jehovah, to seek kingdom interest, to do what Jehovah wants to have done. So the actual routine, real earnest prayer, reading the Bible daily, going to the meetings and really participating in them, and having a meaningful...
So Philip Brumley, just completely on accident, without any self-awareness, and this went through so many layers of non-self-awareness. This had to be shot, lit, edited, re-edited, reviewed, hosted, left this way until at least a couple months ago. And Philip Brumley describes what happens at Bethel to all Bethelites, and in fact all elders, and in fact all Jehovah's Witnesses. You are told that you are special. You have the truth. You're in the only organization God is using today. And Philip Brumley is God's main lawyer on earth, on the planet. Jehovah God, creator of the cosmos, planets such as Jupiter and Mars, and one you may have heard of, Earth. Well, that God, the guy who made all that cool stuff, and also like elephants, that guy chose Philip Brumley to be his lawyer for his organization, because he was a Bethelite. He stepped over into Macedonia, you see. He gave his life to be a servant of Jehovah in God's house, which opened up many doors to spiritual service in his spiritual career, serving the one true God.
Getting those spiritual priorities first in my life, again, as they had been before, put me back on the right track.
So this was a number of years ago now. You're all better? Perceive no residual effects then from the training?
We have to keep working on these things. You always have to assess motivation. A sister who's serving here at the Bethel family, who also has several degrees to her name, said it well when she said, I'm still working to get the venom of self-importance out of my mind. So I work very hard, David, to make sure that humility is not a front, but it's from my bones.
He was humbled by this opportunity to become a big shot lawyer, but then this thing happened where they told him that he was special, and it got to his head a little bit. Like, if God existed, he'd be so embarrassed by this.
And time and again, David, we've seen Jehovah's hand in our work. And when something favorable happens, rather than in any way thinking, well, that was because I did such a good job, the genuine reality of it is that Jehovah did a good job. When we obtain a legal victory or a development happens that's favorable to Jehovah's Witnesses, all thanks go to Jehovah, because in the years that I've been serving in the legal department, I can assure you that it is not because of the expertise of those of us who happen to have this privilege of service.
So yeah, I guess there's about a million reasons why they probably didn't want this on the website anymore. And actually, as I'm recording this, I'm realizing maybe this Philip Brumley thing was taken down earlier, and maybe just the Anthony Morris part remained, but it stuck around for a while. One last thing, another video leaked recently, which me and my wife got to react to, which was this training thing for elders. So it's like a fictional scenario, a reenactment of an elder meeting with Jehovah's Witness elder actors, so not really acting, but they do a fictional scenario where they have to remove an elder. And why are they removing an elder? Why have his spiritual qualifications been called into question? Well,
an overseer should be a man presiding over his household in a fine manner, having his children in subjection with all seriousness. The elders unanimously agree that your decision to support and encourage your daughters to pursue higher education has damaged their spirituality.
you see, it's not that this guy went to college, it's that he's allowing his daughter to go to college, and people are starting to ask questions. This is how dangerous college is. But, like, this is a leaked video that members aren't supposed to see, like normal members. Elders are supposed to see this, obviously. But all the normal members were supposed to see this, and most of them did, unless they're super new in the organization. So what happens now? There's this void. They don't have a lot of official videos on the specific nuances of college. So keep an eye out for that. I'll bet that they release something soon. Let me know in the comments what you think their motivation is for removing this. And thanks for being a patron too. Thanks to some patrons that are on the screen. If you liked this video, share it around, engage with it, and get it going in the algorithm so that we can make Philip Brumley specifically upset. Because this kind of person, you just know this guy Googles his own name to see what's going on, which is crazy because it's only ever bad news. Like, if this guy's in the news, not good things are happening. But I just feel like he must Well, plus their legal department reviews YouTube videos, as I can attest. So, I don't know. It would be funny if he saw it. Maybe it would give him some perspective. Now who's talking up their own importance? As always, Anthony Morris, feel free to come on the show. Philip Brumley. I don't actually trust you to be on the show as long as you are a lawyer with Jehovah's Witnesses. Nothing personal. It's just everything about you and everything you've ever said and done. But anyway, I ramble. It's good to see Jesse out there. As you might remember from the last video, Anthony Morris is a proud father, thinks of himself as a father first and foremost, and is one of the most preeminent patriarchs in the history of Jehovah's organization. Anthony Morris did not let his son seek higher education, and it's nice to see that his son has retained these values.